This episode of Jackie's Groove is brought to you by Jambox. Jambox is a hands-free, breath-powered mini instrument that brings the joy of music creation to all ages and all abilities. Jambox. www.jamboxx.com.
Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
With only one concern in your mind. Everything else is secondary till we find the most inclined beats for all mankind. Show your third identity, never fall behind. From the microphone through the speakers, straight to your ears. We eliminate the fear, now we all ready to climb.
Making our way to the summit, facing the journey and learning.
Everybody, welcome to Jackie's Groove. Hey guys, Jackie Bertoni, brought to you by Intertalk Media. Connect to all things music. It is May the 7th. It is a hot and beautiful day here in Southern California. I'm out here in Temecula. The headquarters is in San Diego, and my guests are in Studio City. So we're going to bring them right in. And I got to tell you, I'm a fanboy of their family, and we'll get deeper into that as we go along. And we're going to talk about their new group, Eyedentity, and we're going to educate the masses throughout the world about my two guests, Krishna and Diana Purim, here on Jackie's Groove. So I want everybody to welcome with open arms and open ears, Diana and Krishna. Guys, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, I want to tell you, as I said off the air, I'm a big fan of the family. Between Ayrto and me being a percussionist myself, and Flora, it's a no-brainer. I go back years. I'm going to age myself here. I'm a lot older than you guys are. But the bottom line is
don't
from
bet
percussionists.
on it.
Yeah, don't bet on that.
Yeah, well, and as I said to Krishna earlier, man, it's really, really cool to talk to another percussionist, and we'll try not to talk too much shop. But I'm going to stay on this opening number that we brought it in there for a second. 2 weeks ago we interviewed a gentleman by the name of Wyclef Jean, and Wyclef, it's got that same kind of a vibe. As long as I don't have to call you Miss Purim, as Miss Lauren Hill. And let's talk about identity.
She is great.
Yeah, yes, I mean, I was listening to Howard Stern this morning, and she now insists that they introduce her as Ms. Lauren Hill, and that's another story on Oprah. So egos all set aside. Let's talk about the two of you. And I'm gonna ask both of you a question. I'm not gonna split it up. So if you guys want to argue between the two of you guys how you want to answer this, that's fine. But I do want to figure out, and I do want to find out, coming up in a musical family like the both of you did, when you guys were listening to music in your growing stages and your informative stages of music, was there a type of music that you loved to listen to? Or when you listened to it, you said, you know what, not only do we love this music, we're going to create music like this as we get older and we grow into the business. What is that? Do you want to explain to both of us, or both of you explain to the worldwide listening audience?
Go ahead, ladies first.
Well, my mom was always a really big influence in regard to keeping an open mind and listening to all different types of music. I don't know. I obviously listened to a lot of jazz, traditional jazz fusion, and Brazilian music growing up because it was just in my face all the time.
Of course.
And I loved all of that stuff, but when I was, I don't know, 8 or 9, breakdancing came out, and I was just like, what is this amazing new art form? Oh, my God. And the music goes with it. Holy crap. So that kind of blew my mind, and I started paying more attention to black music, all kinds. Of course, the most popular forms were more readily available to me at that time, so I was really into, hip-hop and breakdancing and that kind of stuff. But then, as I got a little bit older, I started making the connection between that and, black music, just other genres, like paying attention to all the amazing black artists in the jazz world. And I went way back and I started really getting into Billie Holiday. This is my early teens, really into Billie Holiday and some of the other greats, and realized my mom was keeping company artistically with these women, and that blew my mind. And I got really into blues in my mid-teens, and and also reggae. Bob Marley was just, there's something about, he has a lilt and a swing to the music that it's just the right tempo for moving. You're not like killing yourself in a mosh pit, but you can move to it, and it's uprising kind of music. It's revolutionary, but it's also beautiful, and it says the message is solid, and it's rich. The music is rich, and I don't know, I was also very drawn to certain types of rock and roll, which give me more of an edge to my musicality and personality. Mm-hmm. I like things to be edgy. I think the thing that Krishna and I have in common is we're both exposed to so many different types of wonderful music that, we were kind of eclectic. We became kind of eclectic in our taste. And when we first started this project, the Eyedentity project together, we couldn't figure out what we wanted to do with it. It was kind of like a lab. The project itself was a platform, and we just... Well,
also at the same time, the label that we were assigned to, they were pretty adamant about it being trip-hop, quote-unquote. So we were, at the time, we were like, oh, trip-hop.
What?
Yeah, yeah, we could do trip-hop. And then we're like, what's trip-hop?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go research some of that. And then we got into Tricky and Portishead, and we were like, oh, it's kind of like the stuff that we were into already, but just maybe a little more in a psychedelic way or whatnot. And so we were like, okay, we could do this. So we started to do those type of things. And our first album with them, it was a label in London called Electric Melt. I don't know if they're still around, but we did an album with them, and then we had one song that came out that was pretty, got some attention. It was called Heavy Interference, and so from then on, like Eyedentity was born, and it actually came from Ayrto's. It was inspired by Ayrto's album in 1975, Eyedentity. And then, of course, Deanna was like, why don't we call it Eyedentity? Get it? E-Y-E, wink, wink.
Right.
So we were like, yeah, okay.
Let's talk about the song that we started at the top of the set with also. Let's get to the root of that song. What is it all about? Break it down for me in layman terms.
Oh, Many Bodies. Yeah, well, the name of the record is Many Bodies, One Mind. And this is just like an abbreviation of that. And for me, the deepest, richest meaning of it is something that started all the way back to slavery. So the culture of those people, they were taken from Africa, they were taken to Brazil, taken to the U.S. and other places. But but if you think about U.S. and Brazil, there was like this huge concentration of like this culture, that was just brought there. And in the United States, it was much more suppressed. They were like, "Oh no, you must do this, and you must pray to this God and whatnot." In Brazil, it was a lot looser. They were like, "Oh no, yes, we loved what you're singing, and we love that dancing capoeira. That's beautiful." Not knowing that it was a lethal martial art, So, and at the same time, all of that came through in the U.S. They just didn't know it. Break dancing is so similar to
it filtrated
to capoeira and
culture.
like the hip hop culture and Brazilian culture of just samba, whatnot. It has so many similarities. So, and I'm also a Buddhist, so many in body, one in mind. That's a concept, a Buddhist concept. So I just thought of that, and like without even knowing each other, these tribes of slaves, they're so bonded and they're like cousins and don't even know it. So that's pretty much the inspiration.
Yeah, breakdancing as opposed to capoeira, they're very similar. Even some of the moves are the same.
Mm-hmm.
There's
when you hear scratching, even when you hear, I don't know if you know,
exactly.
you're a percussionist, so you're familiar with the cuica, right?
Absolutely.
So, if you think about it, it's a lot of, it's like, oh my gosh, the similarities are striking.
When you say the word slavery, it cracks me up. It makes me fall back last week with Mr. Kanye West, and don't get me going on him.
Oh, here we go.
Where he claims that slavery was a choice.
Please. The only choice they had was to turn lemons into lemonade, and that's what they did. And I think that's what we're trying to get through too.
That's again. I said it before. It's another show on Oprah. I don't know what's up this brother.
There you go.
He needs to be. And we talk about cuica. Let me just educate the listeners out there. Cuica is it's an oval. It could either be in stainless. Tin.
Yeah, it's like a cylinder or whatever.
It's a cylinder.
And it has a stick in the middle,
And it's played with
attached to a skin. And actually, it's originated in Africa. It was used to as a lion call to hunt lions.
Absolutely.
And it was very grave. It was like a big bassy, that sound that the lions make. And then it was taken to Brazil, and then all of a sudden it was like a smaller one, and it became like this like sensual, hey, you come and get this type of type of thing.
And like I said, it's played by moving the leather, wetted or damp leather piece of a cloth that goes up and down on the stick itself to emulate the sound of and it's it's more of a talk, if you will, and it's a staple of the Brazilian music itself and samba. And I want to find out, how did you two kids find each other?
We were.
How long is this show?
Right. We don't think we have enough time.
Take your time.
It goes way back to her parents and my parents.
Let me start off.
Please.
My mom and dad met in São Paulo, Brazil, at the Stardust Club. My mom was, by day was like a secretary, and by night she was trying to be a jazz singer. And she met Ayrton at the club, and he fell head over heels in love with her because she was super different from everybody else, and turned him on to John Coltrane and all that. And as soon as he was sprung completely on her, she was like, okay, bye.
Right, I'm going to the U.S.
So she had been working day job, night job, saving up, and she got on a plane and went to New York. And he didn't know what to do with himself, and he sold his drums, and people lent him money, and his plan was to go to New York and get Flora back and bring her back to Brazil and marry her and whatever. So he figured out a way to get over there, and when he got there, my mom had already entrenched herself in the local jazz scene in New York, and was hanging out with Thelonious Monk and Cannonball and Walter Booker,
which she met through people like my mom and dad. So
met, Maria, which is Krishna's mom, and Walter Booker, which is Krishna's dad, and she was I think she was at some point began staying with Walter and Maria in a little apartment in Soho, and my dad, who didn't even speak English, went running into Brazilians and looking for her, and he found her. And so they were staying, totally broke.
They crashed on my parents' floor, basically.
Yeah, crashed on his parents' floor. This is before we were born.
Yeah.
And then Maria got pregnant with Krishna, and he was born in the hospital in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. My mom and dad rushed her to the hospital to deliver him.
Yeah, my dad was on tour.
And then I was born 2 years later in the same hospital. And then
we've been hanging out.
and the mom moved to L.A. And then I think 1 or 2 years later, my parents decided to move to L.A. for work. And we had just been friends ever since, just always.
And if I may jump in real quick, can I brag about your father, Walter Booker? I mean, one of the greatest jazz bassists that's ever graced the music industry in the way of jazz itself. Was that a lot of influence growing up with that? Was there a lot of pressure having your father as Walter Booker?
I'll be honest. As I was being born, my mom and dad were splitting. I was actually in my mom's belly. I don't know if you're familiar with the Wayne Shorter's record, Supernova?
Very much so.
Okay, so my mom is the one singing Gingy, and my dad is the one playing. My dad is the one playing the guitar. Her mom, Deanna's mom, is the one who taught my dad how to play Gingy on guitar. And I was in my mom's belly while she was singing that song. And the reason why she was crying is because she did it like 50 million times. It was like so sick of doing it. But it came out to be this most beautiful, touching version of Gingy, So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, the first time I ever played Gingy
with pop.
Yeah. So after that, I would see him maybe every 4 or 5 years, or like, hey, how you doing? Always had this great connection, great kinship and connection with him, and but we never really hung out the way I'd love for us to hang out. Maybe towards the end, like in my 20s, we did.
That song has been covered by so many people. The first time I ever played that tune live on stage was at Howard Rumsey's Concert by the Sea with Cal Jader, and it was
by the Sea.
Yeah, do you remember? I know. Now I'm aging myself now, but that song has been covered by so many different people, and it has such a meaning and it's such a vibe to itself. Oh, yeah. And going back and bragging about your mama, Diana, if we may, can you educate the people out there who Mama is?
Oh yeah,
Flora. I mean, what can I say? Airto and Flora are jazz fusion pioneers. They're one of the possibly a handful, maybe less than a handful of Brazilian artists who are responsible for propagating Brazilian music outside of the U.S.
Dig it.
And they're fathers of Brazilian jazz fusion.
They're pioneers for sure.
They're pioneers.
Absolutely.
They were doing something completely different than all the rest of the Brazilians. My mom wanted to be, Sarah Vaughan, but she was Brazilian, so the flavor came out different, and she made her own thing. And, whereas a lot of the other Brazilian singers were doing Brazil, Flora, as a Brazilian, came out and married with jazz and made something totally new.
Absolutely.
And it was super edgy. She was one of the pioneers of the double mic technique. I think possibly the pioneer. I think it was her originally. She had the Echoplex unit attached to a completely separate mic with a foot pedal, and would do all that weird psychedelic repeats and echoes and effects and stuff. She would click on and off for certain parts of the tune. She approached singing from a musician's perspective, which gave her a lot of respect and credibility among the musicians. Because the old joke, it's like there's musicians and then there's drummers and singers who are not really musicians. But my mother was very highly esteemed
inspirational
as
for sure.
musician. Just changed the face of jazz as we know it.
I want to ask this question to both of you, and kind of intertwining both the new and the old, new being you and the old being mom and dad. But let's say if mom and dad were coming back up in the industry in today's technology, would they find it more as a struggle, a deterrent, or do you think that their breaking through would have been easier based upon what is out there today in social media and so on?
I think it's a combination. Actually, Airto does have an album that's out. It's called Coulier, and he's promoting that now. He's going to go to Europe, and we're doing our tour, and Diana's going to join him in Europe to help finish off the tour over there.
His band, and I recorded on his record.
So for him, I think he's excited because it's just like it's available everywhere on iTunes and this and that, But I think he's accustomed to there being a company there that's gonna, take care of this and take care of that,
Your budget,
yeah,
tour support.
yeah, he's like, I think that culture shock is complete, because it's a completely different game. You kind of have to wear a bunch of hats and kind of make it happen yourself before somebody big comes and takes over.
Agents and a whole system in place, and now everything is almost self.
So it's a combo. It's a combo. He's very excited, and at the same time, well, but what about this and what about that? And so no, we have to do this and we have to do this and that. But at the same time, it's not discouraging him to the point where he doesn't want to do it. He's totally going for it. So I think it's great.
I think musically, Airto is a lot more traditional and grassroots. Flora has always been a lot more open-minded in regard to modern music and trying new things.
Yeah, I'm going to push back a little bit on that because Airto, nobody mixes rhythms the way Airto does, because he'll take traditional samba and like a mark or two from the northeast of Brazil and somehow be able to mix those two and make it sound genius. So
without
I'm
being
just pushing
busy.
back just a little bit on that.
But what I'm talking about is like if you show him a backbeat, he's just disgusted. Whereas Flora is like, well, why don't we do some programming?
Let's try this and let's try that. Right.
Let's try some samples. And you're just like,
And I want to ask you, Krishna, I want to introduce you to something real quick too. The industry, we don't know each other personally, but myself, my touring has been quelled a little bit because back 22 years ago, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I live a normal life. I'm a little bit slower on my right side. And I always found myself, when you guys get into the studio and you get that creative juices flowing, but you become the whitest guy on Soul Train because you just can't find the groove. You can't get going and so on and so forth. But throw that into the mix and throw into multiple sclerosis where my right side is mortally affected. And not that my rhythm has been affected, just that my dexterity, that's a good word, or my, the fatigue sets in. So, and I want you guys to check this out. There's a company called Jambox, JAMBOXX.com, and they are a breath-powered MIDI wind instrument. Now, here's the cool thing about it now. When they came to the network and they realized the fact that Jackie is known worldwide for his involvement with MS and the MS world in general, and the fact that I'm still able to record some of the best recordings that I'm still doing. But on those interviews, they heard me on about my right side being weaker, and when I would shut down the studio when I just couldn't get myself going and I needed to take a rest and so on. Jambox came in and offered the position to me, Jackie Bertoni, to be the worldwide ambassador. Now, dig this, Krishna. This instrument, it's larger than, if you guys are in front of a computer now, or even on your smartphones, go to Jambox, JAMBOXX.com. It's a large instrument that is, when I say large, about this, about maybe 50% bigger than a harmonica. But here's the cool thing. I just recently have a new album out right now with Michael Pollock, one of the greatest saxophone players, along with David Benoit and Jeff Lorber. And we covered a tune. And what I did is, and that's out on the market right now, it was just released last week, but I took this song that I recorded, I pulled the organic and acoustic percussion out, and I dig this, Krishna, I replaced it all with the Jambox percussion. Now, I played this all with my mouth by blowing in.
It's all okay, great.
And blowing in and sucking back. So it's called sip and suck, if you will. And we're going to, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to map all my percussion in my studio, congas, timbales, shakers, gyro, cuica, and everything else. So when you're going on, and it's very, very cool. And for those people who have been sidelined because of being caught in the crossfire, being caught with ALS, diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, become paraplegic, quadriplegic, who no longer were able to play music, now can play music again. And it's awe-inspiring, brother. And when I tell you that, it's just that if you can think it, you can play it, and as long as your lips are moving. And that's what I mean by the fact of all of our cool things that we as percussionists, there we go, bragging about ourselves and all the sounds that we do. How many times on stage have you played percussion and you looked at the audience, Krishna, and they look like the RCA dog. And what I mean by that is that their heads were tilted because they were just amazed by you know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. And all the tunes that we play out there and the sounds. And so when you're out there and you're playing, and let's go back to Airto for a second. When you're playing in the realm of Brazilian percussion, on the pandera, and so on. But when you're something as simple as a shaker,
right?
Something as simple as a triangle, something it was probably the most understated and underrated instrument out there. Is there a percussion instrument that you love to pick up and play?
Oh, that's easy. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That would be the pandeiro. That would be the pandeiro.
Explain to the people out there what the pandeiro is. It's not a tambourine.
Pandeiro is known to everybody else in the world as the tambourine.
Right.
But it's a Brazilian tambourine. It's fitted a little bit differently. It has a skin. Sometimes it's synthetic. Sometimes it's animal
Plastic.
skin.
Sure.
It's just a magical instrument because you can make it sound like 10 or 15 drums at the same time.
It's amazing.
You know? And I would just be in awe watching Airto do his pandeiro solo. That's a section of his of their show for an Airto show. It used to be, and everybody would stop. You know, the musicians would get off stage, and Airto would get in front and start to play his pandeiro, and it just blew me away every single time. I was like, no way, man. So I got really.
Is there one
inspired.
in front of you? Do you have one in front of you
There's
right now?
There's not one in front of me. I can get one in front of me.
Go get that. I'm going to
Okay.
pick. Yeah, because I want to educate that because just the running of your middle finger across the skin, and to get that shaking sound.
That beautiful. Oh yeah. It's
Yeah,
so funny.
you
Everybody
did.
looks at me and goes, "That's amazing."
Yeah, it is amazing, and just that.
Here we go.
Just
Check
that.
it.
There we go. And see what he's doing right now, guys. He's running his finger across the skin, and it's more like a serpentine, kind of like in a figure 8, to get that sound going. And also, too, if you would be so kind, can you give me a groove on that also that we would be familiar with in the Brazilian vein of music?
Sure. Are you ready?
Chan, chicka, chan, chicka, chan.
How's that?
Yeah, and see, and if you can't stop and think visually of a beautiful Brazilian woman with a tiny waist, big booty, and a headdress shaking to that, man, that is and that's amazing.
I
get
married
to get
her,
a chance.
actually.
Good boy. I'm married. I'm going on 34 years myself to the same situation. So
20 years this year for me.
Yeah,
years.
it can work, man. It works, and through that percussive groove that we produce on stage, I want to ask you a question. When you guys sit down in the studio, and thank you very much for playing that, brother. When you guys are sitting down in the studio, or if you're sitting down at dinner, if you're sitting down watching TV, what is the writing process that you guys have developed together? Is it a positive thing? Is it a negative thing? What is the process of putting a song together for Identity through the minds of Diana and Krishna?
That's a great question. I would say it depends. I mean, most of the time it's a great experience. Usually I'll have some beats. I produce. I used to really be into hip hop and stuff like that. And not that I'm not anymore, but it has changed a bit. But anyway, I would produce a beat or come up with these beautiful chords or something and show them to Diana, and she would go, "Oh wow, that's incredible!" And before you know it, she would come up with incredible melodies. Incredible lyrics, like in minutes, and then before you knew it, an incredible song was born. I think "This Is Me" is a great example of that.
How much of or is there any headbutting between the two of you when it comes down to the process, or the lack of, or more of?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely, there's headbutting. Sometimes he'll come up with some like he'll come up with the skeleton of a song, and I'll feel like it's too simple or it needs different changes, and then I'll sit down and propose, I'll sit down on the piano, come up with a different bridge or something like that, and I'll think it's great, and then he'll be like, that's not the vibe I wanted, and I'm thinking, okay, if we're co-writing, we have to be a little more open, and but I don't, I often forget that, we have to collaborate and be more open to each other's ideas, but there's also the issue of what's best for the song, because sometimes, I want to go in a totally different direction, and it might not be the best direction for the particular cut that we're working on. Lyrically, also, we'll be writing, and I'll be, switching back and forth between themes and trying different things on, and I'll really like a certain theme that I'm pursuing, and he'll hear it. I'll sing it for him, and he won't like it as much, and he'll try to give me good reasons why. A lot of the time he'll like the theme, but it's too wordy, and I'm a little too specific, and he will want me to tone down the specifics so that it will appeal to a broader crowd and will be understood by a larger amount of people.
Bob Marley is a huge inspiration for that.
But there are clashes. Sometimes I'm really, really married to an idea, and we do butt heads over it, for sure.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question: when being a very percussive vocalist, and I'm going to give you the kudos on that because for those of you who've had the chance to listen to Diana in Eyedentity, she's very percussive. Her voice very much like her mother. And with that said, the reasoning for that. Well, I say that because I love your voice, but what I'm going to get at as a percussionist, I'm going to step on the other side of the coin here. Not a busy percussionist, either is Krishna. But when you are mated or in the studio with a percussive vocalist, do you find yourself, Krishna, having to back off of your original idea of what you're laying down so that you don't step on her voice? How do you work around that?
Actually, no. She's kind of a genius when it comes to that. I kind of lay stuff down already, and she kind of knows what to do. I don't. As far as usually, as far as rhythmically, like you were just talking about, she's right on the money, and also melodically speaking, she's almost like 1,000% right on the money. I never. Oh, I don't know about that melody. I can't remember last time that I've done that. It's usually the content. Oh yeah, you said this. Maybe we should back off of that or whatever.
There's moments in the production sometimes when we start with a beat and we have the skeleton down and we're writing to it. If I write like a rhythmically full verse or the chorus is like that, we listen, and sometimes if it feels cluttered, we will strip out elements of the production to make space for the lyrics. But
it's never something so drastic that, oh my God, we can, that's way too percussive, Diana. I've never gotten to that. Yeah, I've never gotten to that. We actually mesh pretty well when it comes to that.
Are you telling me that, Diana, are you playing around what he's laid down already?
Sometimes, sometimes whatever element dominates, sometimes the music is it's exactly what we want, and if the vocal is interfering with that, then I'll switch up. But if the vocal and the lyrics are just rich and epic and we don't want to change them and it's clashing, then it's the production that will yield. It just depends on the situation.
Okay, now let me ask you another question.
It's a high percentage of the time that it actually meshes really well. So anyway.
And I'm going to ask this question. I mentioned a little while ago about our friend Kanye West, and I say that haphazardly, about his views. Yeah, our friend, his views and so on. Would, if I may step out of my wheelhouse, maybe step back into my lane, but how much does our current government play a role in your message that you're putting down on paper, on celluloid, on digital? The word to keep it straight, to keep it right, keep it in line. Does that motivate you at all of all the crap that's going on in this world right now? How do you?
Yeah, I would.
Okay,
I would say that everything that's happening, in our lives, and that's positive and negative, both, definitely affects our mood and how we write, what it is we're bringing forth. And
right.
we are political, but not like I hate to be specific about stuff. Even when I'm spiritual, I hate to be specific about it because I want to bring in as many people as possible that can totally empathize with that and go, yeah. And it could be a Muslim, it could be a Jewish dude, it could be whatever. It could
be a Republican.
It could be a Republican, a Democrat, because music is something that completely, erases all those lines anyway.
Our mission is unity.
Yeah.
So we have to really be careful not to be exclusive and to, it's a really difficult thing to find the happy medium between speaking out against the things that are wrong with the country and not judging and excluding any particular group.
Right? Because you see what hating on hate does. It's not really helping. If anything, it's making an orange glow get bigger.
Absolutely.
So, for lack of a better word, but it's like that's our goal is definitely to. Sorry about that. Some gardeners just coming up on us.
No worries.
Yeah. So the aim is definitely to get as many people in there with us as possible. And at the same time, they're like, why are we here again? What brought us here again? It's something called music that, that touched your heart, and that's why you're here.
And growing up in the industry, especially growing up in a musical family, the protest in music is different today than it was yesterday. We have a bigger venue to reach out, and it's easier to get our word across. Is any of your songs that are out currently, or even prior to what's going on, a protest vibe?
Protest.
Yeah, we're
you know what I mean by
subtle.
that?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like we haven't been very specific, as in choosing a specific cause to rally after, or
right.
We have message in our music, but it's. Again, we try to be very careful with this particular project. We try to be very careful.
I'm listening to you right now, how you're answering this question right now. You're really, really thinking the proper source and the proper way to answer without saying yes, you are, and no, you're not. And I respect that from you.
Like I said before, I think in some way and somehow, I don't even know how, but somehow we are political, and we do bring in people. Of that, but it's definitely like I said, hating on hate. That we definitely don't come from that. So we don't.
Absolutely.
We don't like to say, hey, look at what this bad person did, or look, we don't like this kind of negativity or whatever. It's more like, hey, look at this positivity. Check out how it makes you feel. We brought it through. We brought it through music. This is how we brought our positivity. Give this a try. What do you think? That kind of thing.
Yeah, we're more from the perspective of empowerment.
Yes.
And celebration and just healing wounds, unifying, overcoming personal demons, oppression, suppression, depression.
Yeah. So we protest negativity, basically.
Good.
There's so much of it, and just to aim it towards nothing but something political. Yeah, I don't know. It's not broad enough for us. So
right.
If there's anything that we're protesting, it's not thinking like somebody wants you to think. We want to be individuals, but at the same time, the many bodies, one mind is the whole. That's what it's all about. We want to be individuals who believe in something that's greater, and then that's why we're trying to.
Our first hit, the first and only hit so far, from the first album was called Heavy Interference. Krishna told you about that. I think that song, out of all our tunes, that song might be the closest to apply to what's going on nowadays, because it's about the heavy interference between groups of people and individuals, miscommunication, purposeful miscommunication, misinformation, just creating a lot of static and just, I don't know, which is a lot of the strategy that the current leaders of this country are, and several others are employing that strategy right now. They're putting out a lot of garbage to distract us from the dirty deeds they're doing, right in front of our noses.
How dare you even say that?
Heavy interference, I think, touches on that. But again, we're not calling anyone specific out.
Right.
It's more of a general,
Yeah, just all kinds of people.
It can be applied to that situation, but it could also be applied on a smaller, more personal
so
level.
that all kinds of people can identify with it. That's all. So they can be like, oh, I identify with that. And it might not, it's because it's not so specific. It's like it's a whole lot of different kind of groups can identify with it.
I honestly, I write more specifically, and then when I show it to Krishna, I end up changing a lot of stuff, because he's very adamant about keeping the perspective open, so that everyone who listens will have the opportunity to make the music mean something to them on a personal level. And that
let me
might
ask you this question.
A different thing to each one.
And that's perfect that you said that. So let me ask you this question, Diana. Now, when you have a certain idea that you're staunch about and you're steadfast on making that recording and it stays on that release, is there a give and take on both of you saying that, okay, Krishna, I went ahead and I allowed, okay, because bottom line is we don't rule, women rule, and I'll be the first one to admit it. But when you get your way, do you allow Krishna to get his way by putting a tune on the release that you aren't too crazy about?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. I think we both totally compromise with that. And I don't know how she feels, but in the end, I end up loving every single thing that's on there.
Of course. And I want to ask this question to both of you, too, and both of you can choose who wants to answer this. But how has music technology of today changed what you guys do?
Oh, a whole lot. I would say a whole lot. Just how we record stuff.
Well, the industry itself has changed. Like, I ideally would love to get the type of gigs that will fund the ideal group. I'd love to go around the world with,
with a 10-piece, with a 10-piece band,
singers, 3 horns, rhythm section.
We
can't have that. Financially, it's a sign of the times. Things have changed, and people just aren't funding that type of show so readily. So in order for me to have all my background singers on point, we're using Ableton Live, and I program them in. If we tour with bass guitar, drums, or if we tour with bass, keyboards, and drums, whatever songs we recorded that have guitars and horns, background vocals, we can program all that stuff in and still have a pretty full sound. We'll have the sound and the elements in.
And a very loose feeling, too. It'll sound live. Yeah.
It's a compromise. I personally there's nothing like first-generation sound. And to have live, real musicians making that music in front of your face.
In the moment.
There's a whole different vibe and energy and frequency and exchange between the group and the audience that happens, as opposed to lab style with all the electronics and stuff. There's artists like Jacob Coulier now, who is a genius, by the way, but he is the one-man band. He sets up all his stuff, and he's got his whichever programs he uses, and he builds up like a lab, like it's the studio on stage. And he's a looping, he's a looping artist. So all of a sudden, there's like,
so that's a thing. That's a thing now.
Vocal harmonies. There's horn parts. There's keyboard. He's got like a 12-piece band, and it's just one guy on the stage. And that's an amazing art and a very difficult thing to do, but it doesn't have the same energy exchange as human to human.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a compromise, and it's a different art form.
That's a perfect picture the way you painted that.
Without the electronics, we wouldn't be able to take the full sound that we want to take.
Wouldn't be able to promote it the way we'd like to.
Right.
Exactly. Now, do you try to stay away from producing something on recording that you cannot reproduce on stage, or now with all the technology, what you do in the studio is what you can bring live on stage if it's backtracking and so on?
Yeah, the latter.
I love that idea.
Yeah,
I love it.
If we can make it happen, if we make those sounds happen and make it sound as organic as possible, most definitely.
I wouldn't want to deter the creativity in the studio for the sake of the stage, or vice versa.
Right.
Okay, now, what does
whatever
it take
you feel,
to get...
and then whatever, if the live version is going to be a little tiny bit different, so be it. It's fine.
Sure,
There's one song on our record that we can't play live.
All right.
Because of the artists involved.
That's right. We got a couple of artists from India, a singer and a sarangi player, which is it's a Indian violin. And there's no way we can reproduce that without. And I wouldn't.
Unless they come out with
right. And I wouldn't even want to put her voice out there. I would like them to be there. Otherwise, forget it. We're just not going to play it.
And a question I want to find out too, as a musician, what does it take to become a member of Eyedentity? And not only what it takes to be a member of, what keeps them there?
Oh, that's a good question. Wow. Okay, to become a member of Eyedentity, you just have to, first of all, musicianship is very, very, very important.
Soloing is important.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of songs.
You have to be what we consider to be a virtuoso. We like that type of playing. Groove is very, very essential. You have to have a groove.
Absolutely.
And then as far as keeping yourself here, it's your desire. If you like it, you stay.
I have a different perspective. I feel
Share
like
yours.
We can't keep anybody. We haven't been able to keep anybody.
Well, no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is what keeps anybody here is their desire. That's what, that's right now. That's all we have to offer. We have great music and a great feeling. And, one day we're going to have a bunch of money. But until then, it's a great feeling. And so if you have that desire for that, you can stay as long as, if we like your playing and you like playing with us, then you can be with us for years to come.
Conceptually, there's the concept of sidemen and of having a solid band.
Right.
We have
that's a tough thing to do. Yeah.
That we are, they're our first choice for
our gigs.
For different reasons,
Absolutely.
There are people that we really will call first because we feel that they have the same love for our music that we do, and they put in the same. They have the same excitement, and they put in the work and the dedication.
Mm-hmm.
They don't mind rehearsing. They, you know what I mean? They don't read on stage.
But usually those guys are so good that they're very successful, and they play with Sergio Mendes, and they play with a bunch of.
You gotta make a living.
So we have to obviously have that kind of patience with them too. So it's very. Please.
I say that because I watched this Saturday. I watched yesterday. My wife and I watched a repeat of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions of Bon Jovi, and
all right.
Here a band walks on stage, and they all still have it. And now the group that I started out with out of high school, a group called the Tower of Power, they're celebrating 50 years. Yeah, man. I mean, that's how I started in this industry. I got to that point because of my ability to play. And they're still my mentors to this day. Let's look at Earth, Wind, and Fire, 48 years. Let's look at Chicago, 51 years. There's a reason why, guys, that this music perseveres at last. that, I'm not going to get on my soapbox and telling you can't become famous by sitting in front of your monitor and going on a thing called YouTube. That's a fleeting situation where you've got to go out, you've got to get beat up, you've got to get cut, and, you got to get bruised. You have to have doors slammed in your face. And that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. So my question to the both of you, what is going to keep, I asked the question about what's going to keep the musicians there. What's going to keep Eyedentity moving forward?
If you find out, let us know, because we could use that information.
All right.
We're working on it.
Okay. But you know what I'm saying?
We're still trying to find that formula. Right now, we have not a handful. We have a good pool of competent, talented, great musicians.
And now just recently, also management. We have a couple of guys who are taking good care of us and finally showing us to people the way we didn't know how to show ourselves. So I think that's very
originally we wanted to have that band concept where we could call the same guys who had the same commitment as we did to the music. We don't have that today. We don't have that.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll be able to find that. I don't know how this is all going to pan out, but in order to keep going for us, we had to be adaptable. We had to understand the needs of individual musicians, the lifestyle they lead, them having to provide for themselves and their families, and being more versatile, having to take all kinds of gigs and sometimes not being able to take ours. When you can't get the guys you want, what do you do, and how do you go from gig to gig? We realized, we had to get all our material charted out and have a much better documentation of our music in case we had to sub out quickly in an emergency in order not to lose the gig. And, it's a different protocol, not ideally what we wanted, but in order to keep going, you improvise, adapt, overcome.
Now, let me ask you this question, which is very important to me. In the last 5 minutes, believe it or not, this interview has gone by at light speed. But I want to ask you both this question. I'm going to throw both into you and let you guys both come out of the and with an answer. What do you guys, and we understand what your mom and dad have left with us over our musical history. Their music will be around for decades when we're gone. And so throwing it back into your situation, what's the one thing you both wish to leave as advice, a lesson, or legacy to those coming up that are intertwined with your music? What is that?
Okay, well, for me, I'll take it first, and then you can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Give your take. But for me, it's the continuance of pioneering, different styles, putting them together. That's what I consider. I'm not going to say that we're pioneers, but I do not know any other band who mixes, American and Brazilian music the way we do. So that's what hopefully that's something that we leave as a legacy. And I would definitely say that the future of music always is taking something and meshing it with another thing. And I think that's always going to be the future of music.
Fusion.
So, there you go. Fusion.
For me,
Diana?
it's, I would say, respect for the origins of the music that you're playing, and fearlessness and authenticity to cultivate the ability to take the origins and make something new with your own voice and your own message. So fearlessness, authenticity, respect for the origins. And the fearlessness and authenticity is for your journey into the present and future.
Well said. And both of you, how do we stock Eyedentity and each individual person in a professional manner, I should say? Let's share some URLs with the listening audience right now.
Okay,
you, Diana.
There's a website, a work in progress, if you will.
Oh, no, it's done. It's up.
It's www.eyedentitymusic.com, and that's, of course, with the EYE.
Here, let me spell it. Right. EYEDENTITYMUSIC, eyedentitymusic.com.
And
individually?
No. It's all one word. Identity music.
Okay, no.
Well, individually, we're still putting up our own. We've been so focused on the identity and reinventing ourselves in this project that that's where our energy's gone into. But I'm also working on my own website, which is not live yet. Krishna, as a producer and percussionist, is going to have his up as well. But that's, again, a work in progress. Right now, what's up and running and live is Dhyana Purim and Identity.
I wish I could say,
you
guys.
And the other ones, once they're up and running, we're going to promote through the individual stuff.
Right. So Facebook, Identity Music, Twitter at Identity Music, Instagram at Identity Music, and YouTube Identity Music channel.
Okay, and predicated upon how heavy the workload is in the studio today, I'll send you guys individual, if you will, the permanent link to our interview, because it's been a great interview, and I just can't believe it's gone by this quickly. I want to thank you guys, because as Florentino usually comes in, the CEO of the business of the network, and says hi to you, but he's stuck in meetings today. As I'll reiterate and say to him right now, you guys have been officially jumped in. There's no getting out. And to Intertalk,
awesome. We like it.
Intertalk Media, and also to Jackie's Groove, and also too, if there's anything coming up around the corner, anything that new that needs to be promoted, please reach out to us. We're here to help you guys out 100%, because what we're all about is that we are a network that is ever growing, and as a network that's run by musicians. Paul Berezetsky, our COO, and the gentleman on the board right now. In fact, the music you hear in our theme music is myself on percussion, Paul Berezetsky on guitar, and Florentino Buenaventura on drum programming and bass. So we are a full, so it's a very cool situation. So I want to thank everybody worldwide that listens to and promotes Jackie's Groove and Intertalk Media. And I want everybody to thank personally my guest today, and that would be Krishna Booker and also Diana Purim. Guys, I'm sitting here smiling, looking at a Bible of information, and I'm forever grateful for you guys coming on our show. And so I want to thank
you so much.
And as I said before, you've been jumped in. There's no getting out. And guys, also too, like I wish I could say go to iTunes, go to this. I wish I could say go to Tower Records, go to Virgin Reggae Store, go to Amoeba, and buy the new release.
What you could say is that
go to our shows.
We're starting a tour starting May 19th, and it's all up and down California. Newport Beach is another one.
I'm going to cut you off, guys. There's that type music. Guys, please visit identity.com. Guys, thank you so much for being part of Jackie's Groove. Jackie Bertoni.
Thank you for having us.
Brought to you by Intertalk Media, your connect to all things music. Peace through music, guys. I love you. Stay healthy and keep promoting, man.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.